listening to Tonebender's Sound Design Podcast, presented by Sound Ideas. This is the show where we talk with the sonic artists behind our favorite films, games, and series. If summer has your next project heating up, Sound Ideas is making it easier to build up the library you'll need. During the Sound Ideas mid-year sale, you can save 50% on all proprietary items. From impacts and ambiances to vehicles, animals, machinery, production elements, and specialty effects, you can stock up on these professional sounds before your next deadline hits. Get ahead of the edit with sounds ready for any scene, transition, texture, and any surprise that may come your way. Shop the 50% off mid-year sale now at sound-ideas.com. Hello, my name is Tim Muirhead, and I will be your host today on the Tonebender Sound Design Podcast. Welcome to part 2 of 4 live episode recordings that were part of SoundDay LA. You've pressed play on a good one, as I have a lively discussion with 4 members of the Spider-Noir sound team about their work on this very unique sounding show. This was recorded live in front of hundreds of members of the sound community in Glen Film Center's massive Stage 1. While the vast majority of the people in the crowd were Los Angelinos, I was amazed to find out that people had come from far and wide. I talked to people that flew in from Florida, Chicago, Toronto, Mexico, New Mexico. The enthusiasm in the crowd definitely brought the day to an extra level of fun. I want to throw out a huge thanks before we roll into the talk. I cannot thank enough SoundDay's sponsors, Remoto Playback, ASG Advanced Systems Group, and Sound Ideas. The day would not have been possible without their help. If you're listening to this, please give your support to the sponsors that support events like this. Stay tuned over the next few days as we have 2 more panels from SoundDay LA coming onto the feed. First is a roundtable talk with sound teams from HBO shows including The Pit, DTF St. Louis, and Hacks, as well as a full episode focused solely on Stranger Things sound team. Okay, let's get to the talk for today, where I spoke with supervising sound editors Ethan Beagle and Andy Sissel, re-recording mixer and sound designer Ryan Collins, and location sound mixer Matthew Sanchez. All from the sound team on Amazon Prime's Spider-Noir. The panel started with a clip from episode 1 of the series.
It's getting late and it smells like shit back here.
I tried to warn you.
What? Whoa.
Now you're gonna burn.
Jesus.
Welcome, guys. Thanks for coming today. Let's talk about the idea of having to find the sound of a superhero, but not today's superhero. Do you want to take that first, Andy?
Sure. Oren Uzel, the showrunner, was very particular that, we wanted to make a show that was filmed in the 1940s, but still had that feel of today's superhero blockbuster vibe. So working on a few Spider-Man movies, I kind of know what we should expect today, but we couldn't do that back then. So the crew did a great job. Everybody put their minds together and had some great ideas along the way. But in particular, it was being organic and having him be a retired Spider-Man who's coming out of retirement, and having that feel of like, well, how can we make Spider-Man sound like he's from the 1940s, but have fun with it, with things like props that are old or gear that's old to record with, like old Nagras and old mics, but also using like Sankins that can get that high frequency. So we kind of approached it with that mindset of let's go really far with it, but also how can we break it and make it vintage and authentic to the old kind of style that it used to be.
Ethan, what about the voices? they have to sound with the old timing. Yeah, hey. Was an ADR needed when the actors lost that, or how do you keep that consistent?
They do, and they do, and they didn't. We actually recorded everything twice.
Once for color and once for black and white.
That would have been a great thing if we were able to do that. We really wanted to do that, but we didn't know. This is something that hasn't really been done. The vintage feel in a new context and trying to find where we cross between the two things. So it was a great experiment that nobody knew what the results were going to be. So to prepare for the experiment, like in Loop Group, we recorded all of our tracks twice. We did what I was calling nondescript, and then we would do a noir pass where everybody would yuck it up a little bit and put on their inner Bogart and Eddie G. Robinson voices. And, for every radio announcement, every police call outs, all that sort of stuff, we did twice. And some of it was great. We used a lot of the noir stuff when we wanted gags, when we were in crowded places like the bars and stuff. We wanted to give a little bit more of that period character. But then in the more emotional stuff, we would lean on the nondescript stuff so we wouldn't get in the way of the music and everything else.
Let's talk about recording the voice on set when spider masks are on. How do you accomplish that? How do you mic up the mask?
We kind of auditioned a few different things, and we wound up putting it kind of like between the eyebrows, because around the nose and the mouth area, it wasn't really that great. So we tried a few different things out. We ran it down to Electro Pack, which I decided to do because Electro is like a digital hybrid. So it's like analog and digital. And all my regular wireless was WYZICOM, which is full digital. So I was kind of overstepping into the design realm a little bit because of, like the difference between plugins and outboard gear. You kind of get that 3D, like low, mid, low kind of quality sometimes. So the Electro, I felt, gave him that kind of 3D low presence in the mask. Also because it's noir, you can kind of get more into that analog territory. So it was like a big decision to commit to that sound for everything in the mask. And these guys obviously crushed it. So I think it worked out. But they probably saved any shortcomings I did. So don't do that.
There were none.
Thank you.
Let's watch a clip where Spider-Man does have the mask on. So we ready for that, Albert? Again, these are in full Atmos, so enjoy it.
All right, here goes nothing. Come and get it.
Wow. Ryan, do you want to talk about how you tackle a scene like that when it arrives on your faders with that much going on, and maybe even how much communication is going on ahead of time between you and the sound editorial?
Sure. So that scene was really special because it's the last episode, and we got to really see the buildup of the sonic identity of each character throughout all the episodes. This is where they finally meet and have their big battle. So it's like everything's sort of at 11. And obviously, Andy and his editorial team did a great job preparing everything. But, as we all know, when you add music, when you add all the sound effects, you have to be really intentional with what you play. So I always say mixing is a subtractive process. You get all the great sounds, but it's like, what do you want to feature? What do you want to focus on? Because you can't play everything. It's going to sound like a big mess. So, we just sat there and, okay, this shot, who's going to be featured? Is it the music? Is it Sandman? Is it Megawatt? And it's just finding that balance of telling the story. What are we watching? Because the human brain can't focus on all these sounds at once. So you really have to be intentional with the choices you make and what you're featuring.
Yeah, Ryan did a great job, like taking your eye and putting it where it should be. And that's like the most important part of a scene like this, where it's just boom, boom, boom. And Will Digby, one of our sound designers, did this great work with a megawatt kind of powering up with synthesizers. So that would be another thing from kind of today's style that we're putting to a character that you don't necessarily see that in the visual from him, but you got to feel it and believe it with your mind. And then Ryan goosed it up really great at the right moments with the sub, because you can't have that wash of just low end all the time too. So kudos to you, bud. That was great.
Thanks, bud.
While we were preparing for this, there was a very long debate over which clip should be in color and which clip should be in black and white. So it was interesting. I watched the whole series in black and white when I watched it. So when I'm seeing these things now in color, it's like a totally different experience. Now I got to go back and watch the whole thing again. But I'm wondering if we can talk about how you came up with the superhero sounds. Maybe start with Sandman?
Sure. Yeah. Knowing early on that the intention was black and white and that we maybe weren't even going to do color, there was this talk of, all right, well, you can only see so much in black and white, so we want to make sure we're getting everything we can. So I naturally drove out to the desert and picked up 1,000 pounds of sand and drove it home and thought, well, this will be great. We can play around with it, get that kind of fine sand sound. And then Ryan and I went to Home Depot and got a bunch of salt and Quikrete and gravel and everything you could think of.
The employees hated us. We were like playing with rock salt and spilling it everywhere and
like,
throwing
what does it
cinder
sound like
blocks
to you? Yeah.
in the store. Yeah.
Clean up on aisle 4.
Yes. And they're like, why are you asking me why this is going to be cool for sound? But it worked out great because the initial thought that we had would be that Sandman would be kind of constantly flaking sand. And we did a sound design review early on where Oren came in with Dan Shear and everybody else from the team. And we discovered at that point that in VFX, he had come to the realization that he doesn't want him to be kind of flaking apart and falling apart, and that he wants to really show the pain that the supers have, because they weren't born with it. They were forced. It was like forced onto them in experimentation. So he literally turned to all of us and said, what does eczema sound like? That's what it should sound like. And so we had to go back to the drawing board a little bit with the idea of, all right, we have to make this kind of short, sweet, and correct, and doing different things with like very speeding and the salt versus the gravel, and the Quikrete really was the big hero, I think. Ryan can talk more about that because he did a lot of that.
The Sandman sound really told a story behind what emotions he's feeling. Like when there's sweet scenes between him and Kat, we use the fine sand and it sounds a little romantic. But when he's in a fight and he solidifies into concrete, we use different. That's where we use the Quikrete and cinder blocks and things like that. So this comment about what does eczema sound like? I mean, it's the skin affliction, and I think the first pass we did, we all sort of get tracks from the picture editor, and we try to use that as a foundation and emulate that with better sounds. And we did that, and it turns out that was wrong. That was wrong. We needed something that was physical. And so we just went to the store, went to the desert, recorded all this great stuff. And I find that, as sound designers, we always go through the same school of have a great library, build your library, and that's the foundation of your worth as a sound person. But I find, and I think all of us sort of find, that whenever you can grab a microphone and record something with an intention in mind and matching something that's on screen, that method wins every single time. And I've never failed when it's like you put a microphone in something and you make that what's happening on screen. And I think that was really the key to success for this one.
Yeah, I totally agree, because you also get those like happy accidents that happen while you're recording for other elements. Where Lonnie Tombstone, it was not that typical Tombstone that you're used to hearing. We went with more of a crab kind of cracking, and then Will went to Big Bear and got these big pine cones and like realized that those would be great as well. But then I kind of was like, well, that'd also be great for Sandman's like bones too. Well, what if I did like sugarcane? And it just gets you thinking of different things that you can do when you're going in with intent, like Ryan's saying.
Yeah, the Sandman recordings, that was the start of our pursuit to just create this original library, because the goal was to create an original soundtrack, and so we recorded a ton of stuff, and it all really ended up in the show.
Yeah.
Well, in addition to the sound effects, the dialogue sounds amazing in this show. Earlier, I was told that there's a way that you like to record lavs so that they sound like boom and boom so that they can be mixed. Do you want to talk about this?
Oh yeah, so I actually didn't want to say this because I felt like it was a hidden secret. That was like my secret.
You didn't want to say it?
Well, I'm going to say it. I mean,
saying it now.
It's stupid.
Too late.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess it works, but so I would use DPA 6060s on men and COS 11s on women, because the 6060 has like a really smooth, detailed top end, and the low end is kind of it's like flat, I guess. I mean, it's a phenomenal lab. It sounds incredible, but the COS 11 has like a really exaggerated low mid kind of plosiveness to it. Plosive is not like the right word, but that kind of like gets you thinking about the right thing. Up into the show, I was playing around with doing that on some other commercials and stuff. And then when we started filming, I was like, I'm going to just commit to this and just ride it the whole time. And if it burns down all my relationships because they're like, what are you doing? Then I'll be like, well, at least, you know, it was on something kind of noteworthy. I felt like it really matches when you're mixing the lavs and the booms in the scene, especially with men and women, because the DPAs don't match, I feel like. And I know these guys are going to make it sound incredible no matter what, but I wanted to get closer there on set and deliver stuff that was a little bit closer. So when you're mixing the 6060 and the COS 11 together, they complement really well with bringing out the high end in men's voices and then bringing out the low end in women's voices. There were some scenes I think we did that were really good, and sometimes I thought maybe it didn't sound the greatest, but most of the time I was pretty happy with it. And I feel like that was really unorthodox to mix lavs, because you shouldn't do that, I guess. But yeah, I mean, they match really well when you use them like that, so yeah.
Ethan, do you want to talk about getting his tracks in your session?
I mean, they were amazing. And, you know, the challenge, especially now, is because we rely so heavily on the lavs. When there's multi-camera shoots everywhere and there's just no good place for a boom to get into the best spots. And so many shows now are so lav heavy. And in this show where everybody's wearing thick overcoats and really thick wardrobe and jewelry and costume pieces and everything else, to get something that you could just put up with minimal processing and everything, it was really delightful. These were some of the best tracks I've gotten in my career, so it made life really easy. And when you get that, it allows us to focus on all the other creative endeavors that we get to take on. So hire a good production mixer.
Thank you. I don't know about that, but thank you.
He was really great, and a massive shout out to Ariel McGrell. She did a wonderful job editing the dialogue too for us to mix. She's phenomenal. Don't hire her because she's with us forever, but yes, hire her. She's awesome.
Let's roll our last Spider clip. Back to black and white.
Take that, Tom Holland.
Ryan, I'm wondering if you can talk about the idea of, like, there's so much going on in this, and then there's that beautiful scene where it gets quiet while he's falling. Kind of talk about ways to find those quiet moments.
In that instance, I think it was something that we've always sort of felt like this is the first time we really see Ben Reilly use his powers. So how are we going to isolate this as a special moment? And I think the use of silence is so effective that if you start with something big, get quiet, it makes the next thing even bigger. So this is an instance where, we had this sort of built in from the beginning. I think it was effective.
So right after that, not silent moment, but quieter moment, is the first time we hear the web shooter. And you were talking earlier, Andy, about trying to use old sounds and stuff like that. I love what the web shooter sound is. Can you tell everybody?
Sure, yeah. When I first worked on Spider-Verse 1, I was tasked with creating all the different web shooters for all the new spiders. And Phil Lord had said he specifically wanted to have him have a lot of wings and kind of sound like he was built in the 1930s or 40s. So
animated spider.
Animated spider. So that's where I first got the idea to get a 2,000-foot roll of mag and poke out the core, which is like PTSD for anybody that's ever worked in film, and get that sound of it just kind of coming out. And at the time that I recorded for that, I didn't have like a Sanken or my 8040s and good mics that I have today. So I did it again for this one, kind of like a remaster idea, and did it with Ryan and I together. And it's a lot of fun making. It's the cleanup that you have to accept when you have to go, all right, now take two.
It's no joke. It took us like 2 hours to wind that thing back.
It's wild. I mean, kudos to everyone that did film before us. We have to just, it's incredible. Like if that core fell out and you had to watch it go down and re-spool it, I feel for you. But it makes a great sound for Spider-Noir. And so the original idea was to kind of get that kind of poke sound that the first mic would get. My KRM would kind of have that first initial, output. And because it's natural, we're not using like a shooter. There's no like Tommy gun like I used for the animated one. So I had to kind of figure out how I wanted to do it. But another big part of this is that we wanted to kind of subliminally tell a story where we're using old Spider-Man sounds from previous films and incorporating them into this one. So there's a lot of variation of that film spooling where I speed it up, slow it down, kind of move it around to have that layered in, but also kind of adding in Tobey Maguire's web shooter here and there where we can do it. It's something that's a deeper layer that you don't want anyone to really think about, where we can tell that story like Matt was saying, where it's something that's like to us is kind of cool. Like we made the web shooter from equipment from that era, even though it sounds like it should sound now. And this is the first time he's using it in the entire show and after 5 years of being in retirement. So also wanted to give it that kind of like rusted sound to it.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for talking to me today.
Thank you.
It's awesome. Spider-Noir sound team, everybody. Woo! I had a great time with Andy, Ethan, Ryan, and Matthew. It was exciting to be up on stage with them, looking out at a packed house, listening to our talk. Keep an ear out on this feed for the other 3 panels recorded live as part of SoundDay LA. The Apple TV panel with Widow's Bay, Shrinking, and Pluribus sound teams is the previous episode released to this one, and soon HBO's panel with The Pit, DTF, St. Louis, and Hacks will hit the feed, finally followed by the Stranger Things panel. My name is Tim Muirhead. Thanks for listening to Tone Benders. If summer has your next project heating up, Sound Ideas is making it easier to build up the library you'll need. During the Sound Ideas mid-year sale, you can save 50% on all proprietary items. From impacts and ambiances to vehicles, animals, machinery, production elements, and specialty effects, you can stock up on these professional sounds before your next deadline hits. Get ahead of the edit with sounds ready for any scene, transition, texture, and any surprise that may come your way. Shop the 50% off mid-year sale now at sound-ideas.com. Tonebenders is produced by me, Timothy Muirhead. Theme music is by Jim Guthrie. You can reach me via email through info@tonebenderspodcast.com. Follow Tonebenders on Instagram to stay on top of new episodes. If you like the show, you can help us out by spreading the word to your friends and colleagues, or leave us a tip. Just go to tonebenderspodcast.com and click support.